Hi, I'm John Hart and welcome back to Mr. America Heart. All right, today, deloading. Whew. This term has been tossed around the internet, YouTube, comment sections all over the place, okay? And what is it? Why do it? Should you do it? There's some good questions right there. So let's start off with the first one, okay? What is it? Well, we need to clearly define, what do you mean when you're talking about deloading? Originally, the term was used, I'll take it from this point of view, in powerlifting circles. In powerlifting, periodization is the only way powerlifters progress. They use brilliant techniques in periodizing, whether on a macro cycle, that would be more along the lines of, months at a time with gradual increases sort of in a linear fashion. And then we have also microcycles and mesocycles, which are smaller, shorter term cycles that involve raising the weight up, backing off, raising it up again, backing off, and each time going a little bit higher. That's for lack of giving you all the tiny details. But why would they have originally come up with this term, deload? Well, at some point in time, the body's capacity for handling heavy weights, which is what powerlifting was all about, it got to the point where it got critical. You reach critical mass where the stresses became so large that the risk of injury was so great that at some point in time you have to, with a plan in mind, back off, take one step back in order to take two steps ahead, so to speak. So with great planning throughout a year, powerlifters would periodize their training and include a deload period, which would involve lower amounts of weights, and they would vary the volume somewhat to accommodate their body's, let's say, strain at the time, and give it a chance to catch up to the demands that they were making on their bodies. So that's where it all began, okay? But now in bodybuilding terms, I've seen this term now used all over the place in bodybuilding terms, bodybuilding videos. I've seen it in comment sections of YouTubers who are essentially into bodybuilding. Okay, it's not just fitness, but it's bodybuilding. Deload is used often, and I've been questioned, John, can you do a video on deload? John, what do you think of deloading? And again, I'm going to go all the way back to my first question. What is it? So the terminology deload that we're going to use for bodybuilding terms has to do with, again, reaching a critical mass where injury is inevitable, okay? At some point in time when you've been training for 2-3 months at a high intensity, there's a key factor right there, using fairly high load, risking injury, let's say, it risks injury. I mean, anytime you try to compete in a sport at a high level, anytime you go to the gym and decide to push yourself to a great degree, you are risking injury. To not do so means you are simply exercising. You're not training. So I'm talking about training, people who train. So in bodybuilding training, not proper exercise. I'm talking about training. That was worth repeating. In training, you push the envelope because we're going after maximum mass. We're going after maximum definition. We're going for reaching our potential. And in doing that, it does reach a critical mass. What kind of deload would you take? Let's say 12 or 16 weeks into training, you got a few little niggles here and there, your joints feel it a little bit, and it's not really motivating, let's say, to start increasing more and more with the weight. Okay, so what do you do? Backing off entirely and taking a week off from training is one way of doing it. That would be a great way of attempting to let your system recover entirely, rest thoroughly, let your joints rest. And you can do, like I've done for years, with complete rest, not active rest, but complete and total rest, where you just go to work and you live your life. And in doing all of that, you would go ahead and you would train none, zero, and don't go to the gym because you're not married to the gym. So you take a total break. That's one type of a deload or a break from training, a layoff, let's call it. Second to that would be an actual deload, which means you would go to the gym and you would just train and pump your muscles with light weights over the course of, again, 7 to 10 days, maybe going up to 2 weeks of just using lighter weights and going through the motions and pumping your muscles up, getting a nice pump, moving quick between exercises, not even worrying about getting super high intensity. Your goal is not to tear down the muscle, it's to help it recovery. It's sort of an active recovery. That sounds pretty good. So lastly, I've heard another version along the way, which is, to me, the least of all with regards to, oh, I wouldn't do it, which is taking some form of a lower volume of work and still getting after it, still lifting big weights, still training with high intensity. While some may benefit from that psychologically and go to the gym and go, hey, I only have to do 2 exercises today, 3 exercises maybe, as opposed to the 6 or 7 that I would normally do in total. And so it's about half the work, half the volume. I'll go ahead and do the same weights. And they think, yeah, that's a deload. Well, only in the sense of having lower volume. That's not going with lower loads, and it's certainly not going with lower intensity. So in that regard, I don't like it. You're still stretching your joints to the max. You're still taking a chance. The risk of injury is still super high. And then when you get back to your normal volume of training, again, pushing it with intensity and a decent load, you've really not recovered all of your resources fully. Glycogen stores may not be fully recovered. Those minor injuries that you may have been on the edge of getting, they still have not totally recovered. So that one I kind of toss out the window. I really wouldn't do that. So we've now defined in bodybuilding terms what sort of deload options you would have. A total layoff, a active recovery layoff, where you're using very light weights and pumping the weights through. The workout goes pretty fast. You're out of the gym in a certain amount of time, your choice. And the volume's fairly low. You're just getting a nice pump in the muscles and saying, yep, I touched the muscles. I got to see everybody at the gym. Hi, I got a little bit social, and I left. And then lastly, doing more of a consolidated routine where you're just doing a few big exercises, still training heavy and hard, and walking out of the gym. Those are the 3 options. So we've defined them. Why take a deload? Because as I said, at some point in time, you get those potential of injury. When should you take a deload? Well, if the injuries are popping up, this is the second part of the question. If they're popping up, it's your body letting you know it's time. It's getting to be time. Okay, so that's different from getting in the gym for the very first couple of weeks and feeling, a little soreness here or there, or your tendons might be getting used to some of the movements that you're doing, and then they're fine in week 3, 4, 5, 6. You're fine. So when to do it? I would say 2 highly significant red flags. One is multiple tiny injuries start to pop up. Time to take a deload or a layoff from training. That's one. Number 2, psychologically, you just don't have it anymore. You wake up in the morning, you're like, ugh, I got to go and train today. It's no longer, I get to go train today. That's the difference. That's the difference right there. You don't get to go to train. You got to go and train. Well, don't. There's the answer. Because long term, it's not going to be an answer for you. You're making yourself do something you're going to hate going to the gym for any extended period of time. And unless there's a competition coming up, there's just no reason to do it. So that's when you do it. When psychologically you're done with it for several workouts in a row, and then minor injuries try to creep up. Both of those, either of those, take a layoff, take an active rest. So why, when, and then of course the how. I already answered that in the beginning. Take either. My choice, take either a complete layoff from training, 7 to 14 days, or take an active rest, 7 to 14 days of going to the gym if you want to still go to the gym, and pumping out exercises with lighter weights just to get a nice feel in the muscles, and then stop a few reps shy of failure, pump them up nice, the muscles, walk out of the gym. Say hi to everybody and leave. The other option of active rest would be do something else. Go hiking every day. Go up into the mountains. Go, riding your bike. If you're into different sports, maybe play a sport you haven't played in a while just for fun. Have fun during that 7 to 14 day layoff. So that's my opinion of taking deload, okay? Or active recovery, I would call it, or a complete layoff. So that's my personal opinion based on empirical evidence that I've seen and witnessed over the years with people that I've trained and myself, as well as the way we just pretty much always did it prior to this term deload kind of filtering into the bodybuilding circles. So that's it. From my heart to you, John Hart. Hey, if you want more, you want to know more about my training and how I do it all, including diet, okay? Not just deloading, but training, diet, the exercises, how to do them, get a hold of my courses, okay? You can get them hit with MrAmericaHeart. I'll put down below a link. You can go ahead and check them out. And I also have several of my books available as well. You can get a hold of those as well. If you're a raw beginner, year one in the beginning, it's called. My most complete work would be Physique 101, and that was for everybody from beginner to advanced. And then lastly, Mr. America Shape Up Series. I tracked myself for an entire year, and I showed how I trained and dieted to go from a little fat and out of shape to the best shape I could get in the course of that time. So that's it. Check those out down below in the links. Hey, before you leave, off to my left, hit that disc popping up next to my head. That is the subscribe button for my channel. I appreciate you subscribing to this channel. Down below and off to your left, you're going to see the thumbs up button. Please hit that. That lights up the algorithm in YouTube land, and it lights me up too. I love it. And then finally, give me your comments down below about what you think deload, layoff, active rest should be in your training and why you should take it. That's it. I'll see you soon.